On October 20th, 1936, during an 8-day spiritual retreat in Krakow, Saint Faustina Kowalska wrote a series of meditations that ended with one of the most terrifying visions ever recorded by a saint. She was led by an angel into the depths of hell itself. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next stories from the saints that reveal the hidden realities of heaven, hell, and the infinite mercy of God. Let's start by talking a little more about her life story. And all of this can be found in her diary, which has been published all over the world. Before she became known as the Apostle of Divine Mercy, Helena Kowalska was a simple peasant girl from the small Polish village of Głogowiec. She was born in 1905, the third of 10 children in a poor but deeply religious family. Her father was a carpenter and farmer. Her mother, a devout and gentle woman who raised the children in faith and hard work. From her earliest years, little Helena felt a mysterious call within her soul, a voice that whispered of a life consecrated to God. She was only 7 years old when she first heard it clearly, an invitation to leave everything and belong completely to Him. But she didn't understand what it meant, and no one around her could explain it. When she reached her teenage years, her family's poverty forced her to work as a servant in nearby towns. Still, the voice never left her. She tried to drown it with the noise of the world, but the silence of her heart only grew louder. At the age of 18, she begged her parents for permission to enter a convent. But her mother refused. They needed her help, and there was no money for a dowry. Heartbroken, she turned away from the call and tried to live like everyone else. She laughed, worked, and tried to forget. Together with her sister, Helena went to a dance. The music was joyful, the lights bright, but her heart was heavy. And then, in the middle of that moment, she suddenly saw Him, Jesus, scourged and bleeding, stripped of His garments, crowned with thorns. He looked at her with sorrow and said, "How long shall I put up with you? And how long will you keep deceiving me?" In that instant, the world around her disappeared. She left the dance hall, ran through the streets, and entered a nearby church, the Cathedral of St. Stanislaus Kostka. She fell before the Blessed Sacrament and begged, "Lord, what do you want me to do?" Then she heard His voice again, clear and unmistakable. "Go immediately to Warsaw. There you will enter a convent." The very next morning, without saying a word to anyone, she packed what little she had and boarded a train to Warsaw. She knew no one there. She had no money, but she trusted the one who called her. When she arrived, she went from door to door asking to be admitted into a convent. Each time, she was turned away. Finally, exhausted and alone, she prayed, "Jesus, do not leave me alone." That same day, a kind woman offered her shelter and food. Soon after, she was accepted by the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy, a congregation dedicated to caring for troubled women and teaching them to return to a life of virtue. It was August 1st, 1925, the feast of Our Lady of the Angels. Helena Kowalska became Sister Maria Faustina of the Most Blessed Sacrament. Her first years in the convent were filled with trials, both spiritual and physical. She suffered temptations, misunderstandings, and sickness. But she also experienced extraordinary graces. Jesus began to speak to her interiorly, teaching her about His mercy, His love, and His desire that she become a living instrument of that mercy for the whole world. During prayer, she saw the souls in purgatory and even the suffering of Christ Himself. She offered her life for sinners, praying especially for those who had lost faith. In her humility and obedience, she became a chosen soul, a witness of both divine mercy and divine justice. And it was during a retreat in Krakow on October 20th, 1936, that Sister Faustina received one of her most frightening revelations. Led by an angel, she was shown the place of eternal punishment, a vision that would mark her forever. Now, let us read her full account, exactly as she wrote it in her diary, a book published in dozens of languages and read all over the world, so that no one may ever say, "Hell does not exist." In the days leading up to her vision, Sister Faustina entered into deep silence to speak only with Jesus. She prayed to know him more intimately and to understand the depth of her own misery before his mercy. Jesus told her to transform herself entirely into love. During those meditations, she experienced a profound union with God and realized that her destiny was to glorify divine mercy forever. She chose Saint Claude de la Colombière and Saint Gertrude as patrons of her retreat, asking their intercession. The Lord filled her soul with a reverent fear, not the fear of punishment, but the holy fear of offending the one she loved above all. Each day drew her closer to Jesus, until, at last, God allowed her to see what awaits those who reject his mercy. Today, I was led by an angel into the chasms of hell. It is a place of great torture, and how awesomely large and extensive it is. The kinds of tortures I saw are as follows. The first torture that constitutes hell is the loss of God. The second is perpetual remorse of conscience. The third is that one's condition will never change. The fourth is the fire that will penetrate the soul without destroying it. A terrible suffering, since it is a purely spiritual fire lit by God's anger. The fifth torture is continual darkness and a terrible suffocating smell. And despite the darkness, the devils and the souls of the damned see each other and all the evil, both of others and their own. The sixth torture is the constant company of Satan. The seventh torture is a horrible despair, hatred of God, vile words, curses, and blasphemies. These are the torments suffered by all the damned together. But that is not the end of the sufferings. There are special tortures destined for particular souls. These are the torments of the senses. Each soul undergoes terrible and indescribable sufferings related to the manner in which it has sinned. There are caverns and pits of torture where one form of agony differs from another. I would have died at the sight of these tortures if the omnipotence of God had not supported me. I am writing this at the command of God, so that no soul may find an excuse by saying there is no hell, or that nobody has ever been there, and so no one can say what it is like. I, Sister Faustina, by the order of God, have been to the abysses of hell, so that I might tell souls about it and testify that hell exists. Now I cannot speak about it, but I have received a command from God to leave it in writing. The devils were full of hatred for me, but they had to obey me at God's command. What I have written is but a pale shadow of the things I saw. But I noticed one thing, that most of the souls there are those who disbelieved that there is a hell. When I came to, I could hardly recover from the terror. How terribly souls suffer there. Consequently, I pray even more fervently for the conversion of sinners. I incessantly plead God's mercy upon them. Oh, my Jesus, I would rather be in agony until the end of the world than offend you by the least sin. Saint Faustina's vision is not meant to satisfy curiosity. It is a warning born of mercy. She did not see hell to frighten us, but to remind us that the greatest tragedy of the soul is not suffering. It is separation from God. The same Jesus who showed her the depths of hell also revealed the ocean of his mercy. He told her that no sin is too great to be forgiven, but we must ask for forgiveness before it's too late. May this testimony awaken our hearts, not to fear punishment, but to love God with the same fire that burned in the heart of Saint Faustina. Because mercy is real, but so is hell. The existence of hell is not an invention of fear or imagination. It is a truth written in the conscience of every man. Even those who mock it fear it deep within, because the soul cannot erase what God himself engraved upon it. As Monsignor de Ségur writes, "The wicked who laugh at hell lie to themselves. They believe in it more than they dare to admit." Throughout all ages and all civilizations, mankind has carried this conviction. There exists a place of punishment for those who have freely chosen to reject God. From the Hebrews to the Greeks, from Moses to Plato, every people, under different names, has spoken of an eternal fire. A justice that the heart knows must exist. Jesus Christ himself confirmed it with his own words, 14 times in the Gospels. He spoke of the fire that never goes out and the worm that does not die. And when he described the final judgment, his sentence was clear. "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." Hell is not only fire, it is separation, the loss of God forever. The damned soul sees the one it was created to love, but can never reach him. Monsignor de Ségur calls this the greatest pain of all, to be drawn irresistibly toward God, and yet eternally repelled by him. That is the true fire that consumes, but never destroys. And yet, even this truth is a mercy, because to know that hell exists is to be warned, to be called back while there is still time. As the Monsignor says, the meditation on hell, when united to grace, can transform a soul. It changed a soldier who mocked confession, and it can still change hearts today. The saints saw hell not to spread terror, but to awaken love. Love strong enough to fear sin. If there is no sin, there is no need for mercy. If there is no hell, the cross loses its meaning. The fire of hell shows us the fire of divine justice, but also the burning mercy that wishes to save us from it. Let us not deny what has been revealed since the beginning of time. The denial of hell is not born of reason, but of pride. The pride that says, "I will not serve." But as Monsignor de Ségur reminds us, even if 1,000 voices say there is no hell, the conscience of one dying sinner cries louder than all of them. Hell is real, not because God is cruel, but because his justice is perfect and his mercy is free. The same God who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," will never force himself upon a soul that chooses eternal separation. So remember the words of Saint Faustina. "I saw that most of the souls there are those who refused to believe that hell exists." And remember too the words of Monsignor de Ségur. Think of hell while there is still time. If you're watching this right now, take it as a call from heaven. Do not wait for another day. Go to confession today. Find the nearest parish, speak to a priest, and open your heart completely to God's mercy. Tell the priest that you haven't confessed in ages, and he will help you. Make a sincere examination of conscience, no matter how long it has been, and let his forgiveness wash over your soul. And when you return home, take your rosary and begin to pray it today. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. This is how conversion begins. One confession, one prayer, one act of trust in God's mercy. If you believe this message should be heard, if you believe that truth saves, then subscribe and help us spread the voices of the saints who still speak to our generation. May their warnings open eyes before it's too late.